vendors who supposedly have said that they have the lowest price. And those vendors might come from the Dallas school system, might come from Arlington, Texas, or whatever. And somehow these entities have formulated a list of vendors who say that we give you the lowest price. And so the city has done a number of contracts using these other qualified people, which then keeps El Paso businesses from being able to bid on them. And I'm assuming that's what they're talking about. At least it sounds sort of like it. And that's a problem because we've seen where a number of these contracts actually are at the lowest price. And that some of the districts that formulate these lists actually get a kickback from the vendors that are on the list. So that certainly needs to be looked at to make sure that we're giving everybody a fair chance at procuring the things that El Pasoans need.
Okay. Mr. Hinojosa?
Let's see here. Of course, I am in favor of small business. I do not appreciate, and I was very sad to hear that question because that makes me angry. That we have a system in which small business would not get a fair shake. That would make me angry. I would make it one of my priorities to eliminate that type of practice.
Ms. Garcia?
I too am somewhat confused by the question. In the event that is the policy of the city, then I would not support it. I do think, I think most of the candidates here actually, that we do need to support local businesses. I would also say that we do need to have some sort of an ethical guideline or transparency that wouldn't allow any members of boards, which is one of the particular issues going on right now, to have any kind of financial gain based on any contract bids that the board is involved with.
Dr. Ware-Asbury?
Again, the question isn't very clear, but just in case, I think that we should have equal access. Every entity should have equal access to compete. I don't think preferential treatment should be given to anyone in the arena. And I think small businesses should have a fair chance to compete against any other entity. And we should support our small businesses here and encourage those businesses to not only to create them, but to thrive. And I think really we need to understand that symbiotically there should be a relationship between human resources and businesses. That we should look at the status of our human resources, understand the quality of life and the standard of living that they endured, and realize that influences how well businesses thrive on a short term as well as a long-term basis. So that we make sure that our people are doing and faring well, so should our businesses, be they small or large, but equal access for all of those entities.
Okay. We're going to move on now, and the candidates will have an opportunity to ask any candidate of their choice any question they'd like. And we will begin with Dr. Ware-Asbury.
I only have one question. Oh, well, let me digress for a moment. Ms. Lilly, I appreciate your service for the last 6 years. However, I still am not clear why was the Red Road put back in the master plan. I do not have a good, clear feeling as to what was the motivation and the justification that was provided to do that, and why wasn't the constituents informed that that was going to occur, and why the reasons were not explained in a fashion where we would not have saved the valley.
Well, first of all, it's put back because there's a need. Second of all, there were many public meetings where the constituents were invited and involved before it was put back on the MPO.
It is clear to me that they may have been informed, but they were not aware of the justification and still are not aware of the justifications as to why that decision was made.
Okay, we'll let Representative Lilly just answer that one more time. We'll move on.
Because there are other neighborhoods and associations in the Upper Valley that desperately want Red Road put back on. They differ from Save the Valley, and they want Red Road put back on. There was a great voice of those people concerned that were involved in this.
Ms. Garcia, who would you like to ask your question to?
Representative Lilly. I would like her to respond to what her voting record has been on the Trans Mountain expansion, the maintenance of our open spaces, and specifically as well Red Road, and whether she's honestly telling her constituents that she is unaware that there's 34 acres ready to be developed right there on Trans Mountain by Hunt Enterprises, and how that relates to the $17,000 in-kind donation she received from that PAC in January, being the first donation.
All right, let me tell you, first of all the property along Trans Mountain has been zoned commercial since 1997. It was sold by the gas company to different individuals. And so all that property's been zoned commercial. This didn't have anything to do with it. It was a long time ago. And so, yes, Hunt's going to develop their property, so is Plexar, and O'Leary is building houses and has property around. Hunt is not the only one. There's another group out of Santa Fe that owns the property on I-10 and Trans Mountain. And what was the rest of your?
The voting record specifically, and I guess I'd be going to the open spaces issue, which you voted, you've changed your vote on that issue.
Well, first of all, when I came into office, open spaces is my main priority. I secured Arroyo 41A, which goes from the top of the mountain down to the river, so the animals can go if they need water. And I did that with a private landowner, and he had the land surveyed. He did a $30,000 bike trail around the Arroyo going down. I've worked on Thunder Canyon, which is a unique experience where the residents around it bought it and then gave it to the city. So it's in perpetuity. It's going to be an open space. The first stormwater money was for the Palisades, which is what I call Upper Arroyo Canyon. That was $2 million. So I've been very involved in open space all along. Now that Trans Mountain is on the map, I guess, there is land that the PSB owns. And it's not clear to me right now. I hear there's something coming up on the CPC next Thursday about some unique zoning that's going to be suggested for that. So I really can't speak to that now. But around the I-10 corridor, I want it to be zoned open space. I just am not sure how much acreage. Maybe it's more than 700. It should be done based on the area and how it'll look. And so far, nobody has presented exactly what that's going to be to me.
Okay. Now, there was a part of the question that dealt with donations. Ms. Inez Garcia mentioned that you received your first donation from that specific political action committee in January. And I guess the spirit of the question was, how does that relate to your vote?
Not at all. Not at all. I think Trans Mountain being built with $85 million from the state is just absolutely a must. We go back into the dark ages if we sent $85 million back to the state and not used it for a road. I know that Plano wanted that money, or at least some of it, so did Lubbock. And so people were standing at the edge waiting for us to reject it.
Mr. Hinojosa, your question for a candidate?
Yes, I also have a question for the incumbent representation. Given that there's 22 people applying for 4 positions, that's almost 500% more than jobs available. If you had to rate it on a A, B, C, or D, F report card, how would you say that reflects on the performance of Crescent City Council?
22 positions.
There's 22 people applying for 4 positions. How do you think that reflects on the satisfaction the city has on Crescent City Council?
I don't know, it's the American way. If people want to run for government, I applaud them because it's a time-consuming job, but I think that's a great statement for the American way.
Mr. Rick Schechter, your